Hi, welcome back. My name's Miss Frankie, and I'm going to be talking today about lesson 4.8 in the Go Math series, which is dividing using partial products. Now, if you watched 4.7, you know that we learned how to divide using repeated subtraction. Dividing using partial products is going to be very similar, only we're going to use larger numbers this time. So if you notice, I have started with the problem 125 divided by 5. Something else you will notice about this lesson is that we are going to get exact answers. We won't have remainders in today's homework assignment. So, starting with this, I'm going to show you two different ways to do it. The first way is going to look very familiar to the repeated subtraction. Let me erase my little line here. All right. What we're going to do is use easy-to-use numbers to subtract with. Well, in 125 divided by 5, I know that any number that ends with a 5 or a 0 is something easy to use. So I'm going to start with using 50. And then off to the side, I'm going to write 10 times 5 is 50. I wrote that off to the side because I wanted to remember what I multiplied 5 by to get that number, since it's a pretty high number. I'm not going to be listing out to the side today my multiples, because by this point, the kids should be able to use the multiples or use easy-to-use multiples for their homework. So 125 minus 50 is 75. Well, again, I'm not done yet because this number is not smaller than my divisor. So I need to keep going. Well, it's larger than the number we just used, so I can use it again. 10 times 5 is 50, so I'm going to subtract 50 one more time. When I subtract 50 from 75, I get 25. Now I need to change the product that I'm going to use. Well, I know that 5 times 5 is 25. So that's going to be a simple one for me to do. So 5 goes into 25 5 times, so I wrote it out here. And when I subtract, I get 0. Once I've hit that 0 mark, I know that I'm done. Now, I'm going to look back at the numbers at the side that I multiplied by 5 to get my answer. I can add these up again, 10 plus 10 plus 5. Well, 10 plus 10 plus 5 is 25. I'm going to write it out here. So my answer is 25. Now, like I said, this is very similar to using repeated subtraction. The difference is that we're doing a partial quotient with it. And basically all that is finding the multiples of the number of my divisor and subtracting. It's very, very similar. Now I want to show you another way that our book uses. We talked about it in class today and it's mentioned on our homework. But for my class's purpose, we're actually not going to be using it. But I want to show it to you because there might be a problem later on where they have to at least know what that picture represents. Okay, I'm using the same math problem that I started with in the last slide, 125 divided by 5. You'll notice that I've drawn a rectangle and put inside my rectangle 125. And then on the outside of my rectangle, I've put the number 5, which is my divisor. Now, the reason that 125 is going on the inside is because the whole rectangle represents 125. And 5 is going on the outside because that's what I'm going to cut it up using. Now I'm going to draw another rectangle, which is going to help me cut up my 125 into manageable pieces. Well, I know that if I multiply 5 by 10, that's 50. So I'm going to put a 10 up here at the top. Well, then what's left is 75. It's the same thing that I used on my math problem earlier. I'm subtracting 50, and then I'm getting 75, and that's by 10. Now, I'm going to continue with this rectangle until I end up with manageable pieces that I can then add together. Well, just like the last time, I still have some left in this 75 to do another 50. So I'm going to put that there. Same thing with my math problem I did to begin with. I can subtract 50, and I end up with 25 left over. I have one more rectangle to draw. So I've used 50, which is 10. 50, which is another 10 times 5. And then what's left is 25. Well, 25 is a multiple of 5. 5 times 5 is 25. All I have to do now is take my numbers at the top, right here, and add them together. When I take those numbers at the top and I add them together, I get 25. So 125 divided by 5 is 25. I know that seems a little confusing, but when they look at the pictures on either a math lesson or in our math textbook, you'll notice that each of these are shaded a little different so that they can easily see what's left and what's been used. Like I said, for our class, we are not actually drawing these pictures, but I wanted to show you what it was in case it comes up in later lessons. Well, I hope you learned something about using partial products to divide, and that you've noticed that this is very similar to lesson 4.7, which talked about repeated subtraction. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.